Okay, so what happens now?
What are the odds of this on appeal for Trump?
I actually think they're pretty good because there are a number of significant issues of the way this trial was handled. And we don't talk about Donald Trump anymore. We talk about the defendant in the case and whether or not the judge did everything the judge was supposed to do to ensure a fair trial, uninfected by the outside world. And I've complained, Aaron, to you that the idea that this jury wasn't sequestered, not even during their deliberations, not to mention for that week before between trial and closings, I think that's a massive mistake that an appellate court may say, this is going to happen. The defense is going to follow the trail of every one of these jurors when they find out who they are and how they are, where they drove, what they did, every billboard that they saw, all of that. And that's going to be the fodder for appeals that this jury was infected by negativity, that this judge didn't protect their client from. That's just one issue, and there
are plenty of grounds for an appeal to reverse this case. I'm not talking about, gray areas. I'm talking about black and white violations by a judge and the evidence that he allowed in and what he didn't allow in. And then
I started that little segment out with Marco Mera. Marco Mera, if you know who he is the attorney who defended George Zimmerman and got him off in what was a pretty daggone, let's just say, it was a pretty contentious trial, the situation with Trayvon Martin, something that we're probably going to look back on at a later date. But of course, you guys obviously saw what happened. The verdict just came in. They convicted Trump, which, by the way, most of us kind of had the same feeling that Greg Gutfeld had about this.
Got some other people here with some thoughts. And that, Greg, let me start with you as we got the news right here, right about 5 o'clock.
I'm not that surprised. This thing always felt preordained. It feels more arranged than a marriage in Kabul. I guess that's why I'm not that broken up about it. The man thrives on adversity, and so do the American people. And this kind of only adds to the persuasive power by proving his point that if you are a threat to power, they will try to just destroy you. And I do believe that, Americans love the story of a lone man battling a corrupt system with his back against the wall, as opposed to some invalid who is now the villain. When you're in this story, and these are all stories, there is a villain and there is a hero, and we now know who the villain is and who's.
Okay, before we get in this, I want to go ahead and say this right now. Number one, this right here is not a rant. This is not me raging at the camera or anything like that, because I actually expected this to happen. Most of us have actually been expecting this for a while. I'm going to talk about what I expect to happen going forward, but I urge everybody who's watching this video, if you're upset, and I understand it's a very, very dark day for the country, don't panic. Don't panic. Because there's actually a lot of red and white pills to come out of this situation, as you guys will see here very soon. What I'm going to say to you before we go any further is try to stay calm, don't lose your faith, and don't panic. Because there's a solution to all this that we'll be talking about over the course of this video. But let me go ahead and tell you what's probably going to happen as a result of all of this and how we can actually fix this. Let's get again. Most of us really and truly weren't expecting any other outcome. I had said before that I expected a conviction on this, but also holding out for a hung jury, maybe even possibly a not guilty verdict, but seeing how it was that the judge's instructions, Judge Marchand, who, by the way, I'm playing some stuff here in the B-roll footage for you. This right was an ad that Trump released like right after the conviction itself, which makes me think that they were already expecting it. And of course, we've also got this other little bit of information that I'm going to be sharing with you guys here in a second, because something else that I thought was going to happen has happened as a result of this. But this video right here is to talk about what happens now. Now, really quick, and I know I said now back-to-back times, Alan Dershowitz, who, by the way, is probably the king of appeals, especially given his experience with the O.J. Simpson case, that trial, and all the other trials that he's been involved in, he seems to believe that the Manhattan District, or at least the Manhattan District of Appeals, the Court of Appeals in Manhattan, would probably, how do I say this? They would probably not overturn anything, but then, of course, it would then turn right back around and go to the state court. And, of course, they probably would not overturn the conviction itself, but they would probably look at the situation as a whole, and they would probably, let's just say, it would just say that this case is probably going to hang up in the appeals court for a very long time, especially given the political nature, especially given the fact that the Democratic Party is trying to jail their political opposition. I'll play that ad for you guys here in a second, because I think at the end of the day, this ad and the timing was absolutely perfect. But of course, I'm here to talk about what happens after. Now, if I want to sit here and talk about the actual case itself, the fact that Judge Merchan had connections through his daughter to the DNC, all the other crap that happened during this case that basically made it look like a kangaroo court, I could do that. I could whine, I could cry, but I'm here to tell you right now that I think, if anything, I think most people should just look at this as a period of we don't want to be blackpilled, because the truth be told is there's really nothing to be blackpilled about, considering.
The Trump donation site crashed a few minutes ago, and it's still down, which means that, I think to your point, that the base would be energized. WinRed apparently also having similar problems. The sentencing would be July 11th.
And even though the guy himself was not some political scholar, he actually did get one thing correct, and that right there was Russell Brand, when he went into a bit of a rant where he actually said something that's actually true. The person who tends to have the most amount of money is normally who wins, and given the fact that Trump has actually outdone Biden in recent fundraising, and also going on top of the fact that not only has he outdone him in recent fundraising, you're seeing a lot of people who, quite frankly, were on the fence about Trump or supporting Trump this time. Guess what? They've actually switched back over. And of course, guess what they've done in the process? You have turned this man into a martyr. Now, even Trump speaking, as you see here.
Conflicted judge who was corrupt. It's a rigged trial, a disgrace. They wouldn't give us a venue change. We were at 5% or 6% in this district, in this area. This was a rigged, disgraceful trial. The real verdict is going to be November 5th by the people. And they know what happened here, and everybody knows what happened here. You have a Soros-backed DA and the whole thing. We didn't do a thing wrong. I'm a very innocent man, and it's okay. I'm fighting for our country. I'm fighting for our Constitution. Our whole country is being rigged right now. This was done by the Biden administration in order to wound or hurt an opponent, a political opponent. And I think it's just a disgrace.
Might make you think that he's just whining about a verdict. Actually confirms everything that, quite frankly, he's been saying to be true. I mean, what was it? Like 64% of the people polled actually believe that these cases are, in fact, politically motivated. And of course, as you guys saw in the video that I did recently with Fareed Zakaria, he kind of let the cat out of the bag and told everybody the truth that, number one, these polls tend to underestimate Trump's overall support base, not overestimate. And then to go on top of that they would not be doing these trials if it was not Donald Trump. Then, yeah, I'm pretty sure you guys can kind of see where I'm going at with this. This is more than likely going to backfire in a very, very big way. And given the fact that Trump is already up in most polls, including the Real Clear Politics average, you could probably see that maybe something is on its way that, quite frankly, a lot of us have been calling this entire time. But once again, here we are. So what's going to happen now? Well, like I said before, I could sit here and I could complain about the case, complain about how things went in that case. But as I said before, most of us kind of expected this to happen. But here's the thing about Trump's cases. The Georgia case, for the most part, has been tossed. It's now on appeal. And of course, Fani Willis's job, or at least that case with her being on it, is under appeal in the state of Georgia. Where guess what? There's two conservatives on that on that particular appellate court, 2 of 3, and of course they're more than likely going to jilt that situation altogether. We've recently found out the Mar-a-Lago situation, the Mar-a-Lago case, the documents case, that one right there has sour. Since this came out that Jack Smith improperly handled the evidence, improperly handled the collection of evidence, and even planted some. And then to go on top of that the other trial, the other one the Democrats are relying on, is not going to occur till sometime next year, and may not even occur depending the Supreme Court's ruling on presidential immunity, where more than likely they'll probably rule that presidents do have some immunity, meaning that the situation is just going to stay in the court system for a very long time, and it's probably never going to see the inside of a courtroom, or at least a courtroom where a trial is going to occur. So, as I said before, this video right here is about what happens next. Well, if you cut on Timcast IRL, then chances are you probably saw this little bit here.
We have this tweet from Lee Zeldin, who posted, just secured an $800,000 donation from someone for President Trump's joint fundraising committee. Never experienced a massive ask that easy. And of course, I have this Dan Scavino saying WinRed is down due to overwhelming support. I don't know if this plan will work, but I will say many people, the majority when I asked my Twitter audience, said he wouldn't be convicted. Those fairly close to 50-50, and then he was. When the Democrats see that their plan is not working, I believe it is likely they push for prison time. Even if it is a year, they'll say it's a first offense, but we think minimum security 1 year is warranted in this regard. They're going to keep pushing because they have no other choice.
There is another segment from that particular episode that I'm going to be talking about here momentarily. And of course, this is going to be the segment I'm going to use more so towards the end. But I kind of want to harken back to the Alan Dershowitz video, which, by the way, I'll link in the description box, where he talked about what happens after. Dershowitz does not seem to think that the Court of Appeals is going to overturn the actual conviction itself. They would more than likely just say no prison time and you owe a fine, which is exactly what I thought was going to happen, is that they were going to convict him in Manhattan. It also goes to show you that the values of the country in each state are obviously a little bit different. If you tried this case, probably in, say, southern New Jersey, if you tried this case in, say, Pennsylvania, or possibly, I don't know, I'll even use a fairly liberal state like, say, Virginia, that does have at least some common sense to a certain degree, chances are this case right here would have been tossed, especially given all the procedural errors and all the other things that happened during this particular case that, quite frankly, made this case right here as appealable as it is, meaning that the appellate court, any appellate court with any measure of sanity, would probably overturn this. But of course, this is New York we're talking about. I'm not saying this to insult New Yorkers. I'm insulting the Supreme Court of the state of New York and the court system itself, and of course the Attorney General and the District Attorney of New York, Alvin Bragg, and that there being Letitia James. The same people who, by the way, let criminals walk free all the time. And now, of course, they have gotten what they wanted out of this. And obviously, nobody's going to take these people serious, which, of course, does have some serious societal implications that we'll talk about here soon. But the thing about locking the former president up, are you sure you want to do that? Are you sure you want to turn this man into Nelson Mandela? Well, given the implications that they were willing to say that this right here was not politically motivated, and then they turned right back around and sent Robert De Niro to basically give a good old-fashioned spiel, which most people panned and heckled him during, with people of the Biden campaign team, it looks to me like it's pretty daggone obvious that it is, in fact, political. And given the fact that the current president, Joe Biden, is looking to actually give a speech sometime tomorrow on this same matter, it looks to me like everything that's happened here is just simply proving Donald Trump to be correct. And also, to go on top of that whole De Niro stunt, it definitely doesn't look coordinated. When you decide to sentence the guy on July the 11th, exactly 4 days before the RNC. It definitely doesn't look like some actual election interference here. I mean, just saying. I mean, it couldn't be more on the nose than that, folks. And given the fact that Donald Trump is also set to get roughly right around $4 to $6 billion in overall liquidation of assets after the Truth Social merger, because he's allowed to do that in August, it seems to me like he's going to have a lot of money, especially given the fact that you've got all these people out here donating maximum amounts of money, single donations, of course, but people who, quite frankly, do have some pull online. Yeah, I would say that this right here is a situation that more than likely is, in fact, going to backfire, which is one of the reasons why it is that I'm not up here ranting and raving and going crazy and getting upset. However, there is one thing to be upset about, and that rather is obviously the erosion of our Department of Justice. However, I'm going to harken back to that Dershowitz video and say right now, if you are a red state prosecutor, a red state district attorney, you might want to get to work, because guess what? If you don't start fighting back, this type of crap right here is going to become commonplace, especially in a Democratic Party-ran America. Anytime somebody wins an election, these people complain. They try to overturn the election results. Go back to 2000. George W. Bush won. Yes, I know it's a very contentious election, and some people think Al Gore got robbed. But did he really and truly get robbed? There was a third-party candidate there, and Ralph Nader. And by the way, Bush had to deal with one and Pat Buchanan. Also, in all those recounts in the 2000 election, George W. Bush never actually trailed in any of the recounts. Seems to me like he wasn't screwed at all. Just saying. Then you get Sheila Jackson Lee out there. She complains. 2004 when Bush won. She complained again. Everybody else tried to overthrow that election. Then guess what? You get to 2016, they try to do it again. Of course, they get upset for Trump because he simply said something. And of course, we all know what happened. But still, at the same time, though, it's not like he didn't do anything that the Democratic Party did not do. Remember, these were the same people that love to accuse you of what they are already guilty of. But, back to those societal implications as a result of this. I told you guys that there was another clip from the Timcast IRL that I was going to play for you guys. This time it involved Hannah Claire Brimlow, because she said something that, quite frankly, I think a lot of people should kind of, let's just say, swallow for at least a day or two and actually think about, because this right here is the real direction that we are headed in. It's a relatively lengthy clip, but make sure you guys watch.
I just think that they view it, they have no choice. They're sitting there going, yeah, this is going to blow up in our faces, but we literally have no other option, so let's cross our fingers. It's like, hey, we got a 5% chance to win, or we give up. And they're like, take the 5%.
Well, and it keeps the attention off the Biden administration. Like, he is absorbing all these blows, and we all look to him. And I was about to say, well, Trump sets the news, but also it only helps Biden to, again, like I said before, have Trump be the one who has to answer all the questions, whatever else. Like, I saw this report today, Phil sent it to me, that apparently there's some unconfirmed reports that the Biden administration has authorized Ukraine to use U.S. weapons to attack Russia. Like, that's an escalation, but we have such a crazy domestic situation going on. All eyes are on that. Of course, why not? On the other hand, what is the Biden administration doing while they keep saying, don't you see how bad Donald Trump is? He is the worst. Look over there. Don't ask us any questions about the last 4 years, and don't ask any questions about what we're doing. To me, it just makes them seem more authentic and more corrupt.
Yep.
Well, hearing everything she said leads me to believe that nobody's going to take this administration seriously. So, let me say this really quick. The current goal of this administration, as far as this campaign is concerned, is to say that Donald Trump is a convicted felon. That's been their whole goal, so that way they can say that you're a felon, you should be in prison, you shouldn't even be on the stage. That's basically what it is. You see, the Democrats have this thing where they love to try to discredit their opponent, and of course their entire theme is delegitimize the other person so that way you can beat him. However, the problem is this right here. You end up delegitimizing yourself. I mean, imagine for a second that you're in a mud throwing contest and you just start throwing mud at somebody. After a while, you're going to run out of mud to throw. You're not going to have any ground to stand on. That right there is really what's happening here. There's another story in the Bible that I think really makes a lot more sense in this situation too. It's the story of these people setting a trap and then they fall in their own trap, which is actually what I think is really truly going to really happen. We'll probably talk about it at a later date. But the thing is this right here, nobody's going to take this particular administration or this ruling seriously going forward, or any ruling seriously going forward. It's almost like, who are you to judge? Basically meaning that I will not be judged by people who have 10 times the amount spent in my life. That right there is what the hell really happens. I mean, monkey see, monkey do. I've always said this right before. If you do very, very dumb stuff, the people in front of you will also do very, very dumb stuff because you set an extremely bad example. Now, in this case right here, you're probably thinking to yourself, what are you talking about? And here's what I'm saying. The city of New York, you've got actual violent criminals being let out of prison. You've got actual violent criminals and people who rob, who rape. I have to say it that way because the algorithm commit assault like crazy. You've got these people running around punching women, punching people in the back of the head, and District Attorney Alvin Bragg lets them go. But yet you're going to try to charge Trump. And by the way, these charges, it was 34 misdemeanors that were upgraded to felonies. They had to try to do that. They were considered to be white collar, not trying to say he's guilty and right or not. But given what we learned in the case about Michael Cohen potentially stealing from the Trump organization while at the exact same time being a convicted felon himself, it seems to me like this right here was, in fact, very, very much a kangaroo court, especially given the judge's instructions before these jurors actually went to go deliberate. That right there is its own explanation on its own that would probably take an hour to discuss. But the point is this right here. This administration is trying to start World War III. Nobody wants to join the military. Nobody believes the economy is good because obviously the propaganda is not getting through to people like they actually want it to be, because obviously what they're saying is not real life. People are actually feeling things. It's funny because that old adage that Newt Gingrich had about Biden being the feelings over facts politician is actually coming true and backfiring. Biden is spitting out facts and other people are operating on their feelings. It just happens to be that Biden's facts are false and people's feelings are actual facts. Kind of odd how the hell I explained that, but it's really and truly a very, very interesting time that we're living in, that these people set a trap, and of course they're about to fall in said trap. As a matter of fact, I actually believe that what's going to happen this election cycle is that Trump is probably going to win a landslide, and Biden, after all this time of saying Trump will never leave the office, I would be willing to bet that Biden is the one who chooses not to leave. I mean, think about it really quick. Biden loses. He's been saying Trump will never leave the Oval Office if he wins. But Biden refuses to leave. He refuses to concede, he refuses to leave. A lot like Trump did, but eventually Trump did leave. The reason why I'm saying that is because there's a pattern with this administration. They said that Trump would get us into World War III with Iran. We didn't get into war in the Middle East when Trump was in office. He said he was going to get to war with Russia. Well, the Middle Eastern affair happened on Biden's watch, and also to go on top of that, the war with Russia is happening under Biden's watch. It seems to me like everything these people say, the exact opposite occurs. And Biden, of course, doing everything he's doing now, let's just go ahead and be honest, these are all politically motivated cases. And of course, trying to start a war, especially, and what I mean by starting is trying to make it a lot worse, especially the situation between Russia and Ukraine, by basically giving them the okay to fire U.S.-made weapons on Russia itself. It's kind of a great big giant microcosm of everything about this administration. They're extremely incompetent, and they've gotten this country into a lot of trouble. And of course, not only have they gotten this country in trouble on the world stage itself, we are now not viewed as legitimate because of their attempts to try to delegitimize their political opposition. This type of stuff only happens in third world banana republics, which, by the way, we are very, very much becoming very, very quickly, especially under this administration. It really started a long time before that. Trump just simply stepped in and bought us some time. The fact of the matter is that nobody's going to take this administration seriously. So what happens now? Well, seeing how it is that Trump has, quite frankly, broken the internet with donations, seeing how it is that the Republican Party, Red to Win, I think is what the site is called, they've kind of broken their own record with donations. I expect to see a lot of movement coming out of the Republican Party politically, and I also see a lot of people registering to vote. They're already winning in the voter registration anyways. I expect to see an absolute landslide this cycle. It's actually kind of funny to see this. However, there's only one way that happens. And that right there is if you get out there and actually physically pull the lever for the man, for Trump. I typically tend to try to make a lot less Trump-made videos. If you go through about 900 of my videos, you probably maybe see 10 videos that involve Donald Trump in it. Typically, what these people love to do is they love to say that Republican voters screw themselves on Election Day when they just show up to go vote on Election Day. That's true. That's true. You got to get out there and you got to vote early and you got to vote often. I already know some people are black-pilled. They automatically think that it's fixed or whatnot, but you can actually beat it. You got to swamp the people. A lot of times they'll show Trump talking about what happened in 2020, but they always forget to mention the fact that he'll then turn right back around and say, you got to swamp them. You got to hit them early. You got to hit them often. You got to swamp them. You got to go out there and vote the minute voting becomes available. You got to find a way to go take care of it. Rather than voting on just Election Day, you got to take advantage of early voting. That right there is the only way to really and truly beat this situation. I cannot come up here and tell you, I'm not going to tell you, because honestly, to tell you the truth, this, I think, was also done an attempt to try to trap conservatives into doing some very, very stupid things. Don't be tempted to do that. Just simply keep your head, stay focused, stay calm, and go vote. Go vote these morons out of office so that way we can put an end to this nonsense. With that right there being said, guys, please hit the like button, please subscribe, please share the video, please sign off in the comment section, and I'll see you guys later.